Welcome back to New Little Life. My name's Allison Tolman. I'm a nurse, lactation consultant, and breast pump expert. And today we're going to be talking about going back to work. I've come up with just 3 tips for you to make it a little bit easier. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into going back to work, especially if you're pumping and you want to continue breastfeeding in some capacity. But here are just kind of 3 tips that I've come across as I've been working with working moms inside of our program that might help you make it a little bit better, and I wanted to just share. So let's dive right in. The first few weeks back can be really fun and challenging. You know, you may miss your baby a lot, maybe more than you expected, maybe less than you expected. You might also be really excited to have some adult conversations again, or you may just really hate the fact that you have to go back to work. And all of these are normal, and everybody kind of reacts to going back to work a little bit differently. And sometimes you won't even know until you're back the little things that you didn't think were problems. It might be guilt from enjoying being back to work. Like, I don't know. It's crazy how much of a variety we see when moms go back to work. But here's 3 tips that might make it a little bit easier. Number 1 is return to work midweek. So one of the best tips I love to give to moms that I work with is if you have any control of it, going back on a Monday and doing a full week back for your first week is really challenging. So if you can go back midweek, like maybe a Wednesday and just do 3 days and then have a weekend to recover and then start your first full week. I know it seems silly and you don't always have control, but that can be a really nice way to ease yourself into it. And when we're talking about milk supply as well, if anything goes wrong or different than expected in those first few days, it's not going to impact your milk supply as drastically if we only had 3 days or 2 days of that, and then we have a weekend to kind of figure it out, versus if we just jump right in and do 5 days, and maybe you find out that pumping isn't as easy as you thought, or it's not as easy to get the milk out that's already there that you thought, that your phalange size is wrong, that it's painful, that your schedule didn't work out. Like, there's just a million things that can get in the way there. So if you only have to deal with it for a couple days and then have a weekend, hopefully you have someone that can help you, like a lactation consultant or someone like me who's trained in pumping. But even if you're trying to troubleshoot it yourself, just see if you can do minimum, or going back part-time for a week or 2. I've known a lot of moms in my program also have gone on like a work from home schedule for the first couple weeks and then transitioned back. Anything to make it easier on yourself so that you have more room to play with things when they don't quite work like you expected. I can almost guarantee that it won't be as easy as you expected it to be. For some reason, people just kind of think that you have a good pumping schedule and, if you have a place to do it, it's just going to work. And 90% of the time, I would say that is not always how it pans out. Sometimes it does just work. If you just make and release milk easily, might be fine. But most of the time, there's either some milk supply problems or some scheduling problems or pumping problems just that make it really challenging. So that's number 1, is go back to work midweek or shorten your schedule for the first few weeks back if you can. Tip number 2 for you before going back to work for your first week is to do a practice run. So I would pack up your bag, leave the baby, preferably with the childcare that they will be with during your work hours, and go. Like, have a pamper yourself day, or have a running errands day, or take care of some things that you need to before going back to work. Whatever you want to do. It can be a full day or a few short days, but having that trial run is an excellent idea. This is more than just practicing pumping on your maternity leave, because pumping at home is very different than pumping at work. And I'll put a video up top on some of the differences there, but you really need to pack the bag, take the baby to their childcare and leave. Right? And see what it's like. You don't forget you need to pump while you're away from your baby. Have them practice bottle feeding the baby. That's a skill that they need to learn too. And doing it without the stress of already being back to work, kind of guiding them through that. If you intend on breastfeeding long term, there are some particular ways that you need to bottle feed the baby. And if you are not with your baby, then you got to teach that to the childcare provider or whoever's watching them. And so tackling some of those things before you're also dealing with the back to work stress can be a really good idea. You may also realize that you packed a bunch of stuff you didn't need, or you forgot stuff you did. And this is the perfect time to kind of figure that out. I mean, let's just be realistic though. There's just things that you're going to have to learn on the go. You're going to go back to work. You're going to forget this. You're going to have to adjust this, and that's fine. But having a couple practice runs can really make you feel more confident about that and maximize the chances that you actually get it right closer to the beginning from when you go back. And then number 3 tip for going back to work, pumping in your first week, is talk to your manager or your work employee before you go back. One of the biggest mistakes I see that affects the long-term success of pumping at work is we don't set up expectations right away. So a lot of people like to do this at the end of their pregnancy, kind of like prep for that. If you didn't do that, if you're on maternity leave, it's a really good idea to have these conversations before you go back, or at the bare minimum on your very first day. When you go back, walk in and say, here's what I need, here's how I'm going to handle this. Come up, bring solutions to the table instead of just saying, I'm here, where do you want me? Because the expectations that you set up on your first day, your first few days back, is going to carry with you forever. So if you come in there kind of like, I'm going to kind of be quiet about this, I'm going to sneak in pumping when I can, I got my schedule, I'm going to, do it, I can do this myself. Your coworkers, your boss, your manager, your whatever is going to see that and be like, oh, I guess she didn't need anything. I'm just going to keep doing my thing and she can do hers. This almost always leads to poor results. And open communication and very clear expectations of what you need and what's expected of you and how the rules work is huge. And I know it can be kind of nerve-wracking walking into a boss or a manager's office and talking about your breasts, but it has to happen. And I've helped with this before with moms that I've worked with, because it can be a little awkward. And how do you even write an email? And nobody wants to be pushy and nobody wants to be like, hey, you have to give me this or I can file a complaint with the labor department, and it doesn't come to that a lot. But how do you be firm but kind and respectful at the same time? That's something that you need to figure out, and you need to set those expectations right up front. Your employer and coworkers can't support you if they don't know what you need. So find the courage to be open and honest about what you need so that you can get the help that you deserve, right? Nobody can do this on your own. If you think that you can just sneak away and do your thing and that no one is going to notice and that they're going to accommodate you, it's unlikely unless you're working from home or something. I encourage you to have that conversation. And if you need some help and support through it, let me know. There are a lot of things that go into pumping at work and making it work. And these are just a few logistical tips that can help you. Pumping in itself is complex, and we actually didn't even talk about anything pumping related in this video because it's a lot. In fact, I've built a whole program walking you through step by step to how to do all of that aspect, and then also take that back to work. There's tips like these inside of there, but even more specific because we've learned how to pump fast and efficiently and correctly, how to manage your milk supply with a breast pump, what problems to look for, where to get help, and then now we can take all of that and move it back to work. So I hope you found some help in those tips right there. If you want to learn more about the program, how it works, and come and work with me, get that full support, really just make sure everything is as smooth and frictionless as possible. There's a link down below for you to learn more and schedule a call and chat with us. But I hope that this helped you, give you at least something to try and look forward to, especially if you're trying to go back and do this on your own. I'm here to help you, and there's lots of other videos on the channel about pumping that I hope you find helpful too. All right, we'll see you on the next video. Happy pumping.